blasting, billowing, bursting forth with the power of 10 billion butterfly sneezes.
This is Wine, Money, and Song. And if you want an insider's view of the wine industry, and if you're interested in learning about wines in different wine areas, please subscribe. So we're heading into the holidays, and we just had Thanksgiving dinner. And I like to bring out very special wines during the holidays because you're around good friends. You have good friends, you want good wine, and it's best, and I've always made this point about really good wine. You don't want to have it by yourself. You want to have it with people who mean something to you. And I've always practiced that, and I've had a few friends who are wine aficionados and wine collectors, and they've been very generous with their wines, and I try to pay that forward, that whenever you come to my house and you're interested in wines, you try some special wines. I always like to pull them out. And you like to share things with people who understand the wines and who love wines like you do. So this Thanksgiving, my son was home from college. And we had several excellent bottles of wine, and one of them was a Magnum of Château Haut-Brion. It's not every day or every week that I have a first growth Bordeaux, let alone in a Magnum. But why I had the Magnum was we wanted to celebrate. He's going to graduate in a few months, and he's getting a job very soon, and we're kind of celebrating that. So I picked out this Magnum of Haut-Brion 94, and as I said before, Haut-Brion is a Grave, first growth, named in the 1855 classification, and there's 5 first growths, and Haut-Brion is one of them, and it's the most southerly of the left bank wines. That's a first growth. The rest are Pauillacs and Margaux. And so we opened this up, and to begin with, the cork was really dry. And I really had to do brilliant cork surgery to get it out without getting it, pushing it down. I didn't. These hands are hands of a surgeon. So I got it out without any crumples into the wine. And the wine, the color is still very, very deep, dark. It's not browning around the edges. Has a nice nose. But to preface this wine, 1994 was a vintage that there was rain late in the harvest. And a lot of the wines had problems being diluted. But Haut-Brion is a Grave, and it has gravelly soil, and it drains very well. So the 94 Haut-Brion is one of the better wines of the vintage. There's not too many wines from the 94s that really stand out. A lot of them are kind of finished very short at the end. This wine is medium bodied. It has very good texture, and there's a tobacco minerality in the wine, and there's like saddle leather in the wine. That's classic to Haut-Brion, and there's a smoothness and a velvetyness to it. The one thing I would have liked to have was a little more complexity in the finish. But as I said, it's a 94. Would I pay, this wine is a Magnum, so the value is close to $800. Would I pay $800 for it? No. Is it an excellent wine? Yes. And I think the ratings were in the mid-90s for this wine. I would never go that high, but it was very, very delicious. It was very good to excellent wine. and I was glad I was able to enjoy it with my family. Onward to the second wine, and another Bordeaux, which we didn't have at the dinner. And it's 2004 Chateau d'Armagnac, excuse me, which is formerly called Mouton Baron Philippe Mouton, and they changed the name, not to be confused with Mouton Rothschild. And the 2004 vintage was a very copious vintage, and it's a very middling vintage. And this wine is medium bodied. It's very direct, straightforward. You can taste the heavier soil of Pauillac. The wine's good and direct. And it was originally $50, something like that, less. So it's a good wine, but it's not overly complex. The next two wines are going to be Burgundies. And as I said, I've stopped buying Burgundies because of the price. There's very few Burgundies, white and red, to me that are value to me. But these wines I bought formerly, one is from a 2009 vintage and the other's from a 2010, and the prices have almost doubled on these wines, or even more. But I had these in my cellars, and I have maybe 70 cases of really good Burgundies, but I haven't been adding to it the last few years because of Burgundy prices. So the first wine is Domaine Chandon d'Ambrial, Pernod Vergelès, Ile de Vergelès. And it's a Premier Cru, and it's a wine situated near the hill of Corton. And this is one of the better valued wines, and very, very rich clay soil, iron rich, and it's biodynamic and very rich. This wine's full-bodied. It's not an elegant Burgundy. And as I said, it's right on the hill of Corton. And Corton makes very, very big, broad-shouldered Burgundies. And this wine is further down, but makes really solid wine. And this is one of the 2009s that's big and not way out there, and it could use more time. Most of the 2009 red Burgundies I find you should be drinking. And this one, if you want a bigger, mouth-filling wine, excellent value. And the Domaine Chandon d'Ambrial is really good values and really makes excellent wines. And you can go through their whole line. They make Corton-Bresson and Corton, and really you can't miss with them. The second Burgundy is the Joseph Drouhin Clos de Namouche. And this is in 2010, and this is one of the first vineyards that Joseph Drouhin actually acquired. I think it was back in 1921, so it's over 100 years old that they've owned it. And this is another wine that's very dense, and the soil is clay and limestone, and there's very low yields on this wine, and it's also a wine that's biodynamic. And this is really a rich style, a classic style, and it's going to age a long time. And it's 14 years old now. And I had the 2009 Clos de Mouche recently, and it didn't impress me. It's so different than the 2010. The 2009 was it was drinking, and it wasn't as rich, wasn't as complex, and was going to give more. That I would drink the 2009 Clos de Mouche now, but the 2010 is going to ride a long way. Excellent wine. Now, the last two wines, of course, it's holiday time, and we opened a bottle of Dom Ruinart Brut 2002. And 2002 is a great vintage in Champagne. And Dom Ruinart is one of the oldest champagne houses. And I remember when I visited there, very old caves underneath, and I banged my head on the ceiling twice. I didn't do it once, I did it twice. The way in and the way out. You'd think you learned something, but that's me. So this is a big style. Now, Dom Ruinart is owned by Louis Vuitton Moet Hennessy, who owns Moet Hennessy. They own Krug, they own Veuve Clicquot, down, so on and so forth. The difference between this Dom Ruinart, and they're famous for the Blanc de Blanc, which is 100% Chardonnay. This has Pinot Noir in it and Chardonnay. And this is a very rich style, very creamy. I have some magnums of this wine. So the 2002 vintage, great vintage, very creamy and rich. The last wine is Pol Roger, vintage 2008. Now, I am a big fan of Pol Roger. And Pol Roger is a bigger style of champagne, and a lot of its fame has to do with Winston Churchill. It was his favorite champagne. Supposedly he drank a bottle every night, and every time I see him, he has a glass of champagne or he has a glass of cognac. And he was known to knock it back, and he got to be very friendly with the owners of Pol Roger, and the lady proprietor used to supply him with Pol Roger, and he liked Pol Roger so much that he named the racehorse after Pol Roger, and he used to race the horse, Pol Roger. But to the wine itself, 2008, one of the great vintages in Champagne, and this is a top-notch champagne. And Pol Roger makes big-shouldered wines, really rich, yeasty, and creamy, and it's going to age a much longer time. But I would never say no to Pol Roger. So these are some of the wines that I've tasted in the last few weeks, and I'll be tasting more. But just remember, outstanding wines are supposed to be opened up and shared with friends and family. And that's what I've been doing, and that's what I'm going to do in the next few weeks in the holiday season.